from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Thursday night edition of the program. If you want to join us, give us a call. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And there's plenty to discuss tonight. I want to talk about safe and fair elections, election integrity, and so much more. We're going to do that in the next hour. In this hour, I want to get into a little bit about what happened in the wee hours of the morning. Last night, we had some breaking news. If you were listening to this program in the third hour of the show last night, we found out that the United States had dropped some bombs from a B-2 bomber on Yemen to strike at the Houthis. And then a few hours later, we have this big news. And big news it was that the head of Hamas, the architect and chief mastermind of the October 7th massacre, was captured and killed. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said earlier today that Hamas terrorists who freed Israeli hostages would be allowed to live, but those who sought to harm them would be hunted down and killed. He added that the war in Gaza would end if the hostages were freed and Hamas terrorists laid down their weapons. So that is the word from them. This war can end tomorrow. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But, of course, last night we brought you, as it happened, as it unfolded, Bret Baier and Que Mala Eres, which means how bad she is in Spanish. And Que Mala Eres sat down with Bret Baier, and of course, El Trompito, and Aldous Magnus, he stood there in the lion's den with Univision, and they just, took shots, asking him questions. And honestly, at the end of it, they seemed, I saw the folks that were with Trump had posted some videos, and lots of people wanted to say hello to him. He was in Miami. There's a lot of conservatives in Miami, despite the handful that they picked that said, I am a Republican, and I don't want to vote for you. I'm not sure, blah, 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 whatever. Clearly, the deck was stacked against them because that is not the vibe. And just to take a moment to speak about that, just go to Miami. You'll see that that's not the vibe. I think I'm going to go with 9 out of 10 people, at least Hispanic men, like the ones that they showed in that, north of 50 years old. 9 out of 10 are with Trump. So they had to look far and wide to find the ones that they did that were like, I'm kind of on the fence. Not the case. And again, I'm speaking anecdotally, but I know what I'm talking about. And I think you do too. So anyway, they had those dueling interviews, and that's what we did on the first hour of our show yesterday. Tonight, I just want to give you some of the reaction, because there was some reaction to that from the left within the media, and boy, did they go in, right? We have a montage, a bunch of clips put together of the woman from The View, Sarah Haynes, Donnie Deutsch from MSNBC, Claire McCaskill, former congressperson, Mika Brzezinski from MSNBC, Pete Buttigieg, cabinet member, Brian Stelter, he's back from CNN, Sonny Hostin from The View, and Van Jones, who's also from CNN. They all are in this super clip right here. Listen to them saying how rude Bret Baier was to Que Mala Eres.
The constant jumping in, I couldn't help but feel it's because she's a woman that he's going to keep doing this.
I thought she did a great job. I was watching in real time, and I was quite repulsed by Bret Baier. I had always liked him, always thought he was a straight shooter, and the attack mode from the beginning was quite stunning.
I think Bret Baier was rude.
Let me say this. I don't think he was rude. The attack mode thing, did you think he was going to give her a softball interview? Fox News, right? They're known as the bad guys for most Democrats. Did they think this was going to be a walk in the park? Of course, he was going to ask the questions Imagine if Peter Doocy was doing it, right? He'd ask even tougher questions, right? That's the job here, is to ask the tough questions. I get it. I'm sure if I go on CNN, they're going to ask me tough questions. Don't go if you don't want the tough questions. She went. So I think that's what she signed up for. She's running for president. She herself said, it's not supposed to be easy. Right? Of course not. So then cut it out, people. Stop being a bunch of wusses. Go ahead.
How rude he was.
Yeah.
But I thought she did fine. Listen, was it a home run? No. Did she need it to be a home run? Absolutely not.
We witnessed a man who spent his life as a down-the-middle journalist, seeming to throw it all away for his audience of one, interrupting the vice president awkwardly and unnecessarily, ignoring many issues that define this campaign, including a woman's right to health care freedom.
Really proud of how she represented her views, her values, and this ticket in front of a conservative audience. Something I might add, by the way, that is a show of strength that is the exact opposite of the weakness that Donald Trump has demonstrated by pulling out of going even on CNBC.
So it was almost as if you had a Trump surrogate interviewing Kamala Harris.
That she, went into the belly of the beast and she went into enemy territory. I think that she did that because there are a group of people that have been fed over and over again misinformation and disinformation on Fox News.
I thought Kamala Harris did a magnificent job. It was rude from the beginning. It was disrespectful from the beginning.
Well, there you go. That was a nice little compilation of everything that you just heard there. Whole mess of it. So when we look at all of that, it comes as no surprise that they continue to double down, right? Pete Buttigieg, who was on CNN, immediately started saying that, these people, right, the Fox News viewers, you, me, the MAGA movement, would be reminded of the implications for a freedom-loving country, basically saying that, Trump is going to jail these people. Now, the reason that they're saying Trump is going to jail people is it's really twofold. I believe Trump is coming in like a new sheriff in town. He's going to clean up corruption. And guess what happens when you clean up corruption? Some people do end up in jail. Right? People get caught breaking the rules and they get locked up. And this is something he's realized, that when he chanted lock her up with Hillary Clinton, but took the high road and said, we're not going to put the former first lady in jail, but let's push her out of politics. That's it. You're done. You got beat. It wasn't enough. If people have broken the law, they should go to jail. I believe that to be true. It's not Trump that's putting anybody in jail. Trump's going to pick the right people at the Department of Justice, and they're going to do what they have to do to clean up corruption. I think that's, punto y final, period, the end. I don't think that it's Trump is coming in with vengeance. He's not going after the enemy within. He's not using the military to come after blah, blah, blah. Things get twisted out of context here. It is what it is. Now, I think once you see that people will be held accountable for their crimes, you'll see a little bit less crime. And, of course, the criminals will get more clever. But Joy Reid, she's here. And she was at the Public Religion Research Institute yesterday. I don't know why, but I guess she was giving a talk or something. And she says, if Trump wins, there will be camps. He will jail opponents. Check this one out.
And then the last thing I will say is that if Donald Trump does win, there won't be Democrats go back and figure out how to get more voters and figure out how to change your positions. There will be camps. There will be Project 2025. There could be arrests of people like Adam Schiff. There could be Nancy Pelosi being hauled off to jail. And if you don't think that that's possible, then you really don't understand that there is no American exceptionalism. We're just a country like every other country. My father lived under Mobutu Sese Seko. If you ran against Mobutu Sese Seko's party, you went to jail. That happened in my father's lifetime. Maduro is putting people in jail if on your WhatsApp they find that you're saying things against Maduro. That's happening right now in our neighboring country that wants to invade my mother's country, Guyana, because they have oil. These are happening in our neighborhood. There is no, our democracy is much more like a Latin American democracy than it is like England or Germany or any part of Europe. We are a Latin American country. So everything you see happen in Brazil, Venezuela, It all can happen here. So there isn't going to be an opportunity for Vice President Harris to be the bigger party because we will be fighting for our survival as a democracy, and some people will be fighting for their actual survival. So I think the question misses the point because if Kamala Harris doesn't win, it's not clear there will be another election. So that's the stakes, unfortunately.
Isn't this beautiful? Elon Musk says if Trump doesn't win, we don't have another election. Joy Reid says if Kamala Harris doesn't win, we may never have another election. Both sides truly think the other side is an existential threat. One thinks they're going to destroy the republic. The other thinks they're going to destroy their democracy. All I could say is this. Bad people do go to jail. And this is exactly the reason why Trump didn't put everybody in jail. He took the high road because he chanted, lock her up, lock her up. And when he had an opportunity to put the people in place and maybe say, hey, what's going on over there? Check that out. He didn't. And he didn't because he's a fair person. He got his objective, which was to become president, and he moved on. Now, they gave him a hard way to go, and they made his life difficult. I get it. But we are not a Latin American country, as Joy Reid just said. That's just not true. And if Trump were to jail people because they're his political opponents, he'd be bringing us right into that same place. And if he were to seek retribution for the lawfare, same thing. What he has to do is put in somebody who's fair, who understands the rule of law, and will go after the people that are doing the bad things. It has nothing to do with retribution, has nothing to do with vengeance, and has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with liberty. And that's the key point to remember. The republic has to function. This idea that Joy Reid keeps alluding to, that you can't do this, you can't do that. I understand some people are afraid. I get it. Listen, you know who's afraid? Me. You know who's afraid? People that come on this program and tell the truth. Because they've seen moms, suburban moms who spoke up at school board meetings. So forget about WhatsApp and Maduro. Suburban moms in Virginia were jailed and then followed by the Department of Homeland Security. The FBI issued a threat tag on them. People that attend Latin Mass were considered radtrad, radical traditional Catholic. People were questioned and people were seeking informants, the FBI is seeking informants inside of Catholic churches because of your religious view. One that has absolutely nothing to do with radicalism, right? I've never heard of a rad-trad Catholic saying we're going to, blow ourselves up in the name of traditional Catholicism. I'm going to kill myself in the name of Jesus. I haven't heard of that. What's so radical about that? That you want to go to church and listen to it in Latin? So you tell me which of these people is overreacting. Is it the left who does whatever they feel like and never faces accountability? Or is it the people that are right of center that are saying, we actually have been in trouble, right? They actually did come after Rudy Giuliani's law license. They actually did come after Donald Trump so many different ways. Our heads are still spinning. You tell me who the dictator is, Trump or Kamala. Anyway, straight ahead, we're going to find out exactly what happened with this terrorist mastermind, the engineer and architect of the October 7th massacre, Sinwar. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
1 year ago, Yahya Sinwar, the terrorist chief of Hamas, launched the October 7th massacre against Israel. It was the bloodiest attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. It was the worst attack on the Jewish state since the founding of Israel. Sinwar's terrorists murdered in cold blood 1,200 people. That's elderly people, Holocaust survivors, children. They brutally raped women. They beheaded men. They burnt babies alive. And they took some 250 men, 251 women, men, and children hostage to the dungeons of Gaza. Today, the mastermind of this day of sheer evil is no more. Yahya Sinwar is dead. He was killed in Rafah by the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces. While this is not the end of the war in Gaza, it's the beginning of the end. To the people of Gaza, I have a simple message. This war can end tomorrow. It can end if Hamas lays down its arms and returns our hostages.
That, of course, is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier today making an announcement that Yahya Sinwar has been killed by the IDF, and he continued.
Hamas is holding 101 hostages in Gaza who are citizens of 23 countries, citizens of Israel, but citizens of many other countries. Israel is committed to doing everything in our power to bring all of them home. And Israel will guarantee the safety of all those who return our hostages. But to those who would harm our hostages, I have another message. Israel will hunt you down and bring you to justice. I also have a message of hope to the peoples of the region. The axis of terror that was built by Iran is collapsing before our eyes. Nasrallah is gone. His deputy Muhsin is gone. Haniyeh is gone. Def is gone. Sinwar is gone. The reign of terror that the Iranian regime has imposed on its own people and on the peoples of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, this too will come to an end. All those who seek a future of prosperity and peace in the Middle East should unite to build a better future. Together, we can push back the forces of darkness and create a future of light and hope for all of us.
That again, Prime Minister Netanyahu saying, look, this war can end tomorrow, and they have captured Sinwar, and this is a big deal. I want to get the expert opinion of one of our favorites here, United States Air Force General and former Deputy Representative to NATO for the United States. He's retired, but he's with us tonight. Blaine Holt, welcome, General.
It's such a great evening to be with you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Now, we're like a minute away from the break, but I just want to get a quick gut reaction from you before we really dig into this. Did this thing come as a shock to you, or were you expecting this to be the next shoe to drop?
Well, it came as a shock to the 19-year-old shooter who shot that shell right out of that tank and blew these guys up, and only to go find out that he got the trophy prize. And what I do think, though, is that Benjamin Netanyahu and the IDF are taking advantage of this in the best possible way. This is a tremendous opportunity, and it's going to get better from here. They actually can take Hamas to checkmate out of this event today. This is amazing.
Outstanding. Folks, we're coming right back with retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, United States Air Force. We're also going to get some reaction to some stuff that broke last night, some news that broke, where the United States dropped some bombs on Yemen to go at the Houthi rebels. We're going to talk to Blaine Holt for a little bit, so stick with us, folks. We're coming right back. You don't want to miss this. You're not going to hear this anywhere else. We have Blaine Holt in long form. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Today, Israel confirmed that Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, is dead, and justice has been served. And the United States, Israel, and the entire world are better off as a result. Sinwar was responsible for the killing of thousands of innocent people, including the victims of October 7, and hostages killed in Gaza. He had American blood on his hands. Today, I can only hope that the families of the victims of Hamas feel a sense and measure of relief. Sinwar was the mastermind of October 7, the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. A terrorist attack that killed 1,200 innocent people and included horrific sexual violence and more than 250 hostages taken into Gaza, including 7 Americans, living and deceased, who remain in captivity.
That, of course, is the President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and she is giving her her comments there on the death of Sinwar, the leader of Hamas who engineered this whole plot against them on October 7th. And we left off with Brigadier General Blaine Holt, the United States Air Force, who is giving us some reaction to this. And like me, I think like many, we were all surprised by this. And like he said, including the guy who shot the rocket. General, take it away.
Yeah, it's just such a fortunate series of events. And I'm listening to Vice President Harris, and I am struck because I just go back to the time when she was so threateningly talking about how Israel better not go into Rafah, that they better never do that. And what did Israel find out when they did that? They found lots of headquarters and placements of Hamas. They found an intricate tunnel. They found the Philadelphia corridor tunnels where all the weapons smuggling had gone on. And so we just don't look credible when we then come out today and browbeat just days after they said, we may cut off your military aid, Israel, if you don't get more aid to the Palestinian people. Guess what? It was Yahya Sinwar and Hamas that were stealing that aid. And so now they want to take a victory lap because of the presidential elections. They even said this couldn't have happened without U.S. Special Forces and our intel apparatus. But that's, at the time, we knew that it had nothing to do with intel. They saw some terrorists. They took some shots at them. And then when they did some battle damage assessment with some drones, they went, holy cow, we may have gotten the big guy. And that's what they did. and so what a nice thing. And now now where this puts Israel and Netanyahu into all kinds of opportunities because you can see where his speech is already taking them where he wants them to go, which is you can stop the blood and the killing right now. Give us the hostages and we will feed you, care for you, and you will come out of this okay. And if you don't, we're going to continue this campaign, and you'll have a hard time finding someone who's a leader of Hamas. And this shockwave goes right on up to Lebanon, where they killed another leader in Hezbollah today, and it goes right on into Tehran, that is watching its proxies melt away as you and I are speaking.
Outstanding. General, I think this is a big deal. And you mentioned the clip of Kamala saying, her concern about going into Rafah. We have that clip. I want to play it just for the sake of the audience. Go right ahead.
We have been clear in multiple conversations and in every way that any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake. Let me tell you something. I have studied the maps. There's nowhere for those folks to go. And we're looking at about 1.5 million people in Rafah who are there because they were told to go there, most of them. And so we've been very clear that it would be a mistake to move into Rafah with any type of military operation.
A mistake, but would there be consequences if he does move forward?
Well, we're going to take it one step at a time, but we've been very clear in terms of our perspective on whether or not that should happen.
Are you ruling out that there would be consequences from the United States?
I am ruling out nothing.
So there it is, General. She has studied the map, sir. So
yeah.
Don't go. Don't go. Don't come.
Well, their foreign policy is one word, Rich. It's don't. And it hasn't worked very well. And then days afterwards, they felt that they had to get involved in the humanitarian aid game, so they dropped some things from airplanes, which didn't do very well. And then they got out their $300 million wonder pier that washed up on somebody's beach up in Ashkelon. So it's just one more comedic error after another on behalf of the United States. Here's where the very serious Israelis are going. and their leadership now is starting to really take hold in the region, and they're getting respect. They're providing the deterrence because they're going to a place we seldom talk about, and that place is called victory. And they can't do it any other way because it's an existential issue to them. And meanwhile, you just got hand-wringing here as the Biden administration pursues its three-state solution, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. That's what they're after. And that's why their words get so twisted up as we should be standing by our ally at this point in time.
Folks, we're on with retired General Blaine Holt, United States Air Force. And I think this is a great thing. I really do. And, not that anybody ever wants to celebrate the death of any human, but when you have a human that's a monster that engineered this type of gruesome attack, then yes, you do. You celebrate it. You say, ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. And I think that's where we are today. And I think that's a good thing. I guess my question, I never want to phrase things or even pretend to know, like, we got him, Israel's unstoppable, and Iran's got their tail tucked. I don't want to believe that as much as I do want to believe that, right? So is that the case, or is Iran wringing their hands, licking their chops, saying, oh, you don't know what you just started?
No, I think you're right. Having pause every step of the way is very, very mature. It's a responsible thing. We are on the brink of a potential global war. We see it in Taiwan, Philippines, Europe certainly. And let's not forget that Russia and China have great equities in Iran and that regime making it through this. But we have a lot of room for optimism as well. The population in Iran every single day looks like the resistance is building there. And the mullahs have their backs against the wall. They don't want to do something crazy to Israel right now themselves because they'll put Trump in office is the way they see it, and they don't want that. At the same time, I can't imagine that, yes, this latest display of force from the United States with the THAAD missile system and the B-2 strikes in Yemen, I do not think that's going to deter Israel for 1 second of having the response that it's promised Iran, and I think it will involve their nuclear facilities, and quite frankly, it needs to. A United States president saying, well, don't strike their weapons program, that's crazy. So
why do you think
there's progress?
Playing the devil's advocate, General, why would someone, what is the strategic advantage? I know what I would say. I'd say these people are in the tank for Iran. They're weak, and that's why they say it. But what's their spin on this as to why we don't want to do that? Are they saying we don't want to be the aggressors here? We don't want to stir the pot. Why would we not? Why would we hold Israel's hand?
Yeah, you got to follow the money. They're invested. And it goes back to the Obama administration. They looked the other way. They allowed illicit oil sales to go on despite the sanctions regime. And they have filled the coffers of Iran, which didn't spend $1 on its population. They were, for humanitarian purposes, we got to get back in the oil business and feed our people. That's not what they did. They filled the coffers of weapons in Gaza and in Yemen and in Lebanon. And let's not forget that border czar left the door open to the United States, and all those terror groups are represented right here. So if there is a bigger war and Iran gets thrown into a corner, then you're likely to see them activate cells here. And I'm certain that the administration doesn't want to see that happen either. But they're invested on that side of this, and they're having an awful hard time with their rhetoric getting out of it.
So fear, right? We know your bad guys are here. We don't want to poke the hornet's nest because you might tell your bad guys to do something bad here, which would embarrass us 19 days away from Election Day.
Exactly.
Don't do it. That makes sense to me politically. Folks, we're coming right back with retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And we continue our conversation with General Blaine Holt, retired from the United States Air Force. He was also the deputy representative to NATO for the United States. And speaking of NATO, there's been clashes that have erupted at churches between rival Orthodox groups at a cathedral in Ukraine just yesterday. The video was released, and the accompanying commentary on Twitter was that Zelensky and his Nazi thugs were kicking people out of worship services. As I looked more into it, it seemed that the Russians were also doing this. They were going in and pushing people out because it was not the Orthodox Church, and they tend to traffic in intelligence gathering within the Orthodox Church. At least that's the word on the street. I want to get General Holt's perspective on this, but we have a report that's not that old because this has been going on for a while, and this is from PBS. Listen to this.
All across Russian-occupied Ukraine, soldiers are shutting down places of worship that don't fit the world Vladimir Putin wants to build.
September 11th, 2022. Yeah, it was Sunday, it was worship service. It's like 20 armed people with masks, military uniform, and they were very brutal.
They said, you have to stop this. You have to stop these meetings. And he said, I'm a pastor. I cannot stop the will of the people. And they said, if you will not stop, you're gonna see the blood.
Mikhailo Britsin and Mark Sergeyev are ministers who once led their flocks in the southern Ukrainian city of Melitopol, but no longer. Since the occupation, evangelical congregations, Protestant churches, all the non-Russian Orthodox Christian faiths have been deemed undesirable, and tens of thousands of believers have been forced to flee. Those who remain gather in secret in private homes for fear of angering the new regime.
General Holt, it's my thought and belief after looking at this and doing some research, very minimal research, that the Russians are bringing people in and that the Ukrainians are now saying, you know, if you have any relation to the Russian Orthodox Church, then you can't be operating in Ukraine. They're not saying you can't pray. They're just saying you can't pray at any church that's related to the Russian Orthodox Church because they're at war. Now, I'm no fan of Zelensky, but I understand that that might be a step he has to take. Am I seeing this the wrong way? Is there a nuance that I'm missing? Help me understand.
No, you're not seeing it the wrong way. It's just one of the horrors and the tragedy in this war. And it happened over a year ago when President Zelensky decided it was an important step to go ahead and outlaw the Russian Orthodox Church, which involves a great deal of Ukraine's population, whether they speak Ukrainian or whether they speak Russian. This is one of those instances where, had I been the advisor, I would have said, you really don't want to take a sledgehammer to something that requires a scalpel. And it's tragic that the church has been caught up in this because this has spiraled in both directions, quite honestly. It's not a wash. It's not a wash, and we shouldn't take away from the butchery of the Russian army or what the Russians have done with their information war. But the Zelensky administration has not done themselves any favors. When you shut down a place of worship, and good gosh, in wartime, can you think of something you would need less than the church? Mm-hmm. You have to have faith-based institutions in your country during a time of war above anything. And when you take something away, you have to put something back. And so, to me, it was policy undone. It was, okay, we're shutting this down. Well, that's not where it ends. You need to support the church because they had a state church, and you need to find a way to get people back to their places of worship and set ground rules so that the church doesn't get swept up in propaganda, information warfare, and clandestine operations, which it does, and it has, and it still is. It's just how many believers are there that feel disenfranchised because they can't just do the simple act of going and praying for their loved ones in combat right now.
Yeah, I think that's a solid point. And General, and again, it's obviously been going on for a year or more, with this in multiple churches. But this one I'm looking at just occurred yesterday, St. Michael's Cathedral, where the Russians were operating, I guess, illegally under the sanctions put forth by the Zelensky regime, and were asked to leave, and they got into a brawl, and they started fighting, and you know, that sucks. I mean, you know, you've seen combat, and many people have had to have a fight before, and you want to avoid those things as best you can. But at St. Michael's Cathedral, looks like it was visited by the armed forces, and they had to end a worship service there. Very unfortunate, but I do get it. And it brings me to the time of our Civil War, where, you know, the only time that I could think of that we used martial law a lot, we jailed, President Lincoln himself made sure that they ended the propaganda effort by putting certain publishers in jail that were pro-Confederacy, trying to rip our country apart. And I guess these are the tough decisions that you have to make during a time of war. I don't know, right? You know, I've never been down that road, so I have no idea. But I had no idea how intense this was. And really what caught my eye was the fact that some Jew hater took it upon themselves to say it's Zelensky and his Nazi thugs. And I know that there was like a Nazi battalion that they used early on in the war, and I'm not sure if they're still using them. But that soon kind of spread into Zelensky as a Nazi, and I thought this is pretty oxymoronic, being that he's Jewish. Why is there such a fixation on this group of Nazis that are working as mercenaries, or is it bigger than that?
It's bigger than that. There's cultural lines and ethnic angst that's been prevalent in this region for decades, well before 2014, well before the fall of the Cold War. And so what happens in a wartime situation is groups will fragment, and then you'll see the propaganda come out, and the stuff that divides people during a time of war can be magnified, leveraged, and used against them. And so the tragedy of this is, because of that history of the Azov Battalion or Nazis or not Barbarossa, but there's another Nazi leader that goes back to World War II, and they always wrap the Ukrainian Nazi leader around whatever thing they want to throw a rock at that day and call them anti-Semites. But this is unfortunately what happens in an all-out war like this. What needs to happen from the Zelensky regime is you can't just ignore cultural events like that. You got to deal with them. And when I've had a chance to talk to my Ukrainian friends, I've recommended just that. Is the last thing you want to be fighting is a counterinsurgency against Ukrainian people. And that's what you risk if you don't get out in front of these types of things and deal with the information warfare space that you're in. Or groups will turn on each other, and they'll decide who they blame for that.
General, hang on right there. We're coming right back with General Blaine Holt.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Folks, we're on with the irascible disruptor, Blaine Holt. Make sure you give him a follow on the social media at the irascible disruptor. He's on social media, and you can find his column on the Newsmax website under the irascible disruptor as well. Blaine Holt, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I want to thank you for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me anytime.
You bet. God bless you, sir, and we'll do it again soon. Folks, we're coming right back with more on elections, election integrity, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez with an S, and happy to be here with you this Thursday night. A lot going on tonight, right? Of course, we heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu that they've killed, almost by accident, this Hamas leader. I'll give you an update on that in a little bit. Of course, if you want to join the conversation, 833-482-5337 is the number, 833-4-VALDEZ. We're also going to get into some discussion on election integrity, voting measures, and whatnot right after the bottom of the hour. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with El Trumpito in New York City, right? Because today was the famous Al Smith dinner, and that's where all the, I'm going to say the movers, the shakers, the power brokers, the elite of NYC, the people with money, they get together and they have a good time roasting each other and, white tie affair. And they just, they tell funny jokes, right? I remember seeing Trump there. I remember seeing George W. Bush there, Hillary Clinton. I think I've even seen Obama there. Who I've not seen there is Que Mala Eres. Haven't seen her there yet. But that went on today. And one of the comedians that was there has been playing Tim Walz on Saturday Night Live. And it was great because, he went back and forth with Trump and roasting the audience overall. And, of course, Trump roasted Schumer. And Trump did just a lot of funny jokes, honestly. And, of course, Jim Gaffigan from As of Late on Saturday Night Live, he was roasting people. He actually roasted, he took a shot at Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, saying, I don't think he's here. And he was right there. So there's a lot going on. And they talked about the secret fan base in New York known as the Democrat Party. And there's even a whole piece on this, an op-ed that was published, just 3 or 4 days ago in the New York Post. Trump's secret fan base, New York Democrats crave his win to take the heat off of their own failures. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. So anyway, we'll get into that in a moment. But I want to start off with President Trump, of course, at the Al Smith dinner. And by the way, before going to the Al Smith dinner, or maybe it was right after, but I think it was before, he took a stroll through the boogie down Bronx and stopped in at a barbershop when he was in Detroit. He also stopped at a barbershop. We've got a clip of at least one of those interactions, and we'll bring that to you as well. But here is El Trumpito at the Al Smith dinner in New York City telling some jokes.
Tradition holds that I'm supposed to tell a few self-deprecating jokes this evening. So here it goes. Nope, I've got nothing. I've got nothing. There's nothing to say. I guess I just don't see the point of taking shots at myself when other people have been shooting at me for a hell of a long time and they shoot hard.
Now, he doesn't stop there. Of course, he goes on. And let me see. I got a few of them here that I want to play for you, and they're really good. Let me see here. Let's Count Delacula. Let's continue with some of the Trump stuff before we get to Jim Gaffigan. Go ahead.
Campaigning can take a toll on a family and family life, although I hear that Kamala and her husband carve out some really beautiful alone time at the end of the day for an intimate dinner, just Doug, her, and a teleprompter that she uses quite well.
Now, that doesn't stop there. He continues. Let me see which one. Just keep going, Count. Go for it.
Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
Now, he wasn't done with Kamala Harris just yet. He decided to compare Kamala Harris to Joe El Baboso Biden. Listen to this little roasty roast of Que Mala Eres.
The fact is, we need new leadership in this country. Right now, we have someone in the White House who can barely talk, barely put together two coherent sentences, who seems to have mental faculties of a child, it's sad. Is a person that has nothing going, no intelligence whatsoever, but enough about Kamala Harris. Let's get on to something else.
Now, this one is a doozy. Trump decides to talk about contemporary issues on gender while roasting Tiananmen Tim Walz. Listen to this.
I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz.
That one had me laughing. Now, he doesn't stop there. Trump goes on. He's on a roll over here now. He's talking about the White Dudes for Harris movement.
There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me.
Now, he takes a moment to thank Jim Gaffigan for the great job he's doing on Saturday Night Live impersonating Governor Tiananmen Tim Walz. Listen to this one.
I'd like to thank our emcee this evening, Jim Gaffigan. Most recently, Jim has been playing Tim Walz on Saturday Night Live. And that'll be a very short gig, I hope, Jim. But it was fun while it lasted, wasn't it? Let's see how that lasts. It better be quick. We don't want him, and I'm not going to say anymore. But unfortunately, Governor Walz isn't here himself, but don't worry, he'll say that he was. He's going to say he was.
And he goes on. Gaffigan really does a good job with this. He makes a joke about Democrats and who the secret voters are. This is a good one.
The media has begun discussing the phenomena of secret Trump voters. I don't know if you've heard about this. People who publicly say they would never vote for Trump, but then when they go in the voting booth, they do. It's a small group. They're called the Biden family.
The Biden family. And of course, I was just talking about that piece that was in the New York Post recently, and saying that former President Donald Trump is gaining in swing state polls, and you can bet that one group is secretly pleased. New York's elected officials. The city's Democrats use Big Bad Trump as a cartoon to foil and distract the public, right? He's become a foil to distract the public from their particular failures. Last week, Trump announced a campaign rally at Madison Square Garden on October 27th. And 2 weekends before Election Day. And by the way, I will be there. Rudy Giuliani will be there. I've been talking to a number of people that I know. I think everybody I know is going to that one. We've all been waiting for this one. This is a big one. And this will probably likely be, it's 5 days before Election Day, or maybe 10 days before Election Day. So, or 8 days before Election Day, excuse me. No, I don't know how to do math. It's the 27th and Election Day's on the 5th. You do the math. But there probably won't be another New York rally, like ever. Right? Or at least not Trump for president. So that's going to be a big one. Then they continued in the article about a state senator whose district includes Madison Square Garden immediately lodging a complaint against Trump and his supporter Elon Musk, saying this: allowing Trump to hold an event at Madison Square Garden is the equivalent to the infamous Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden back in 1939. How? I mean, I think if you say Nazi, you're talking about the slaughter of Jews. We shouldn't throw this around very flippantly, but Democrats tend to do that quite often. And the rally will endanger, I should say, the left. Because not all Democrats do it. The rally will endanger the public safety of New Yorkers, she says, and has the potential to incite widespread violence. I demand the Garden keep our city safe by canceling the Trump rally. What a lunatic. Anyway, we're going to continue with some of the Jim Gaffigan clips that we have from the Al Smith dinner tonight, where President Trump was roasting Chuck Schumer, and so much more. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Rich Valdez. And, of course, El Trumpito Donaldus Magnus is back in New York City for the Al Smith dinner. He also did a walkthrough at a barbershop in the Bronx, and he was just in Michigan and went to a barbershop in Detroit. Trump is leaving no stone unturned. If he can be there, he will. And, again, when you talk about a campaign stop at a barbershop, 5 barbers, maybe 6, 10 if it's a really big shop, and a client in each chair, maybe a few people standing around, you're talking 20 people, right? Is that worth his time this close to the campaign? I could find you 100 consultants that would say no. 100. But Trump's got a great head on his shoulders, and he knows these people matter because he's that guy. He's always cared about the little guy in many ways. It's one of the things that I think people find very endearing about him is that he does these things. Whether it's for political expediency or not, Kamala Harris isn't doing them. Instead, she is on the Call Her Daddy podcast. Now, listen, I don't care what podcast she goes on, to tell you the truth. You know me. I'm somewhat of a free speech absolutist. I've listened to that Call Her Daddy, clips of it. I've never listened to a full episode. And the episodes I've heard were very funny. A little raunchy. Probably want to put a little disclaimer on it. Don't play it for your kids. But funny, right? The girl has a huge audience because she says these very provocative, sexualized things that can be humorous. And it is what it is. I'm not going to begrudge her. I'm really not. You know, I look at it like adult entertainment. If that's what you like and it makes you laugh, go for it. Do you want to play it to kids in school? Hell no. Absolutely not. Right? But I'm not here to be the police, the morality police either. This is America, not Iran. Let's go now to Jim Gaffigan ripping Kamala Harris for not being present at the Al Smith dinner. Listen to this.
You know, this event has been referred to as the Catholic Met Gala. 22% of Americans identify as Catholic. Catholics will be a key demographic in every battleground state. I'm sorry, why is Vice President Harris not here? I mean, consider this. This is a room full of Catholics and Jews in New York City. This is a layup for the Democratic nominee. I mean, in her defense, I mean, she did find time to appear on The View, Howard Stern, Colbert, and the longtime staple of campaigning, the Call Her Daddy podcast.
Now, of course, Kamala, instead of being there, she sent in a video that she did with Saturday Night Live alum Molly Shannon. I don't know if that counts. When you're this close to Election Day, she should have showed up, right? I think she should have showed up and been like, look, I'm not afraid of El Trumpito. I'm going to show up in his face. I'm going to roast him in his face. You know, she should have said, I love the dinner here tonight for President Trump. We have an excellent platter of pets. We're serving pets, you know, something that really would have been like, ooh, a little bit of a low blow, but something that would have been funny still, right? Show some edge. Instead, she showed cowardice after she had this back and forth with Brett Baer last night. And again, I think she held her own on one or two questions. Was it over her head on the majority of those questions? And she only held her own because of political positioning, right? Not because she was right about anything, just because she was able to talk her way out of it somewhat. And, appeared, debates are about the audience, right? Not about whether you're right or wrong. It's about how the audience sees you. And I think on a couple of those, the audience probably saw her as, okay, she handled it well. That's ultimately the strategy there. But Gaffigan didn't stop there. He went on to say that Eric Adams has been brought up on corruption charges and a couple other funny things. And Eric Adams is actually there. Listen to this.
And after we pressure Mike Bloomberg to give more money, we will break $10 million. $10 million. Everyone look at Michael Bloomberg and tell him he should give more money. $10 million is pretty impressive. You know what I mean? I mean, granted, it could get you a studio apartment in Manhattan, which seems, expensive, especially considering you can get a mayor for 2 business class flights. Did I break I didn't think we had borders anymore.
Now, Gaffigan rounded everything out with making fun of Joe Biden for getting kicked off the ticket. Check this out.
Democrats have been telling us Trump's reelection is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris. In other words, all her dreams have come true. Really? It really makes you consider the power of prayer, right, Cardinal? Sometimes prayers take 3.5 years and a George Clooney op-ed. Yeah.
It makes you question the power of prayer. Well, I could tell you, I thought that was funny, the George Clooney part. Anyway, Gaffigan did a good job. Trump did a good job. Maybe even Kamala Harris would have done a good job if she'd shown up, but she didn't. She was too busy doing, I don't know what she's doing. Maybe she's trying to win this election. But I think this would have been a good place. Great media mileage for her. But elections are what I want to talk about, because this upcoming election is unique in that it's the first one, I think, for most of all of our lives, where we're actually going to see a former president running, right? The last time that happened, I don't think any of us were alive. So that's going to be a pretty cool thing. And we're going to talk about elections. We're going to talk about Trump at the barbershop. We're going to talk about something that's really serious, a very serious matter, which is veterans. When veterans come home, a lot of them end up taking their lives. And this isn't something that I think is addressed the way it needs to be. So while Kamala Harris is at a rally in Wisconsin, we're going to be talking about veterans and suicide. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And I want to talk about this upcoming election as we give you in my opinion, this is my favorite talk show. Yes, I'm biased because I'm the host, but I enjoy it. I love the fact that we hold on to the traditions of Jim Bohannon and Larry King. And honestly, I've never really listened to very much of Long John Nebel, who had the time slot before King. And I can tell you, I really enjoy the show, and I get some good feedback from people that I respect. Some of them we have clips of, and you hear it as we go through the show. But it's a real honor and a pleasure. And I take the time to say that because today's the 17th of October. And it was the 17th of October 2 years ago when I did my first show as the Jim Bohannon Show with Rich Valdez after he retired and passed the baton to me on the 14th of October in 2022. So big day for me. And I just realized that like an hour ago or maybe a half hour ago. It popped up on my phone and I was like, oh, wow, that's been 2 years. So happy anniversary to all of you who've stuck with me as we've grown the show and we're in new markets. We have three new affiliates in New York, and I'm very proud of that. One of which is in Beacon, New York, and I'm always happy to be on as many radio stations as we can be, because that's what we're doing here, right? We want to be heard by as many people as we can, but the Hudson Valley, which is, Rockland County and further north, just outside of the Bronx in New York, has several new radio stations. And the Beacon has launched on 920 WGHQ 92.5 out of Kingston. And then we've got, and on 1260 WBNR and 1420 WLNA in Peekskill. So I want to just give a big shout out to all of our new radio stations in New York and the New York metro market that are carrying the program. Big shout out to all of them, WBPM as well. So that was that. Now, with respect to the elections, there's plenty I want to talk about. We're going to talk about some of the reaction from Pete Buttigieg to the candidates and their respective interviews. We're going to talk about President Trump's visit to the barbershop in the Bronx, and as well as the barbershop in Detroit. And Veterans Affairs are greatly affected when you have a president that's pro or a president that's not so pro Veteran Affairs. And I haven't heard a lot of that from Kamala Harris. We haven't seen much of it during this current administration. President Trump was very big on Veterans Affairs, and whether or not the government does what they're supposed to do, I think you, me, and many other nonprofit organizations that are out there need to fill in the gap, right? We need to stand in the gap for the people that are out there, because ultimately you've got heroes that are out there that are putting their lives on the line, and they come home and they face a lot of different demons, and they deal with them in many different ways. PTSD is a very difficult thing, and you've got somewhere between 17 and 22 veterans dying by suicide every single day. This is serious, right? It's like coming home is, in effect, its own battlefield, and it's taking a higher death toll than the battlefields overseas are. And look, there's thousands of organizations and the Veterans Administration that are all working on this crisis, yet the numbers don't seem to change. And I'm somebody that can be a cynic at times. And I always feel like, when people are intent on doing bad things, oftentimes they will. And whether it's to themselves or others. And this is an unfortunate reality I've found in my life. But I've also found that sometimes you got people that don't have ill intentions. They just are in an ill state of mind. And maybe they can be helped. And that's why it's important. And honestly, when people have hope, and for me, my hope comes from Jesus, right? But everybody has a different God. And not everybody. I think a lot of people have Jesus as God. But whatever the case is, that it's important that we have hope and we hold on to hope. And Judy Isaacson Elias, she's the founder of Heroes to Heroes. And it's an organization that makes tremendous strides in stopping suicide. She was recently on TBN's television program, Huckabee, with former Governor Mike Huckabee, discussing the book Letters to God. And it's a compilation of letters written by veterans during their healing process from moral injuries, the guilt and the shame brought home from being in war. And this is something that I think I'd like to learn more about from Judy Isaacson Elias, the founder of Heroes to Heroes. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rich. It's an honor to be here, and it's such an important topic. So I really appreciate the time to be a voice for our vets, for many of our veterans who suffer.
Amen.
So right now, I'm actually in Israel, and
nice.
What this has to do with the organization, I'll explain in a minute. But first of all, I'd like to define moral injury, because I think it's something that most people are not aware of when it comes to our veterans.
Sure.
But it is a key problem. And I don't know if it is the key for everyone, but we're seeing that it's a key for a lot. Moral injury is basically, as you mentioned, the shame and guilt brought home from war. And what is this? And why is it not addressed? One of the things we have found in our organization is a tremendous disconnect from God among our veterans. We are, they say there are no atheists in foxholes. And what we find is 70% of our veterans are connected to their faith. They're prepared to go to war intellectually, physically, somewhat emotionally, but not spiritually. And so when they go into war, if you can imagine, war is about killer being killed. And, being in Israel right now, I'm very aware of that. And it's about killer being killed. And we expect our soldiers to go into war, do what they do, which is basically an alternative universe from what we live in. And they're out there fighting for their lives and the lives of their buddies every day. They're not in there fighting. Yes, they may have joined the military for patriotic reasons, but when you're out there in the heat of battle, it's about kill or be killed, protecting your buddies. They come home, we expect them get back to it. Okay, they come back, they're not functioning, they're having a tough time. Most of them are defined or, they're diagnosed with PTSD. Well, PTSD can encompass a lot of things, and one of the things that encompasses is moral injury. With PTSD, there are great treatments. There are ways to move forward. Many of our vets are not moving forward. And one of the things we're finding at Heroes to Heroes, we've been doing what we do for 14 and a half years, is there's a spiritual aspect to this. 80% of the veterans we work with will tell us that God wishes they were dead.
Wow.
This is a soul-crushing injury. And what it means to them, for most part, is I've done something so wrong that I shouldn't be part of society. That God doesn't even want me here. The average person in the United States understands their faith and understands faith in general on about an 8-year-old's level. They understand we have the 10 Commandments. Oh my gosh, I've gone to war, I've killed. How do I ever have a relationship? How do I ever find forgiveness for this? This is one of the big 10. So one of the things we do at Heroes to Heroes is we focus on that healing, and we help them understand faith. And no matter what faith they are, about 98% of our participants are of Christian faith. So we help them understand directly from the Bible. And we actually use the Hebrew Bible to help them understand the Christian Bible. And one of the most important things is those 10 Commandments. And what does that word, thou shalt not kill, that phrase, what does that mean? And if you go back to the original, lo tirtzach, that's in Hebrew, that means thou shalt not murder. And because of the translation, it's become a real problem. Number one, we translate it to thou shalt not kill in English instead of thou shalt not murder, and we don't explain the difference. And in our law, in American law, there's a big difference between killing, which is manslaughter, and murder. which is intent. But we don't explain that to our soldiers. And that can make the world a difference. And in many cases, just that alone can make the difference between life and death. Wow. So we start with, we have a 12-month curriculum. We work with values. What are your values? Why are you here? And I think that's something many people in the United States need to ask, whether they're veterans or civilians, whomever they are, because our values seem to be a bit upside down right now.
Well, Judy, I want you to hold on, because we're going to come right back and talk about these values. I think it's important that we put some attention on that. Judy Isaacson Elias is the daughter of the late Irving M. Isaacson, a proud World War II U.S. Army veteran. She is the founder of Heroes to Heroes, heroes2heroes.org is their website. And we're going to come back and hear about these values that they base their program on, as well as the cornerstone of the program and why she's in Israel right now. So keep it locked right here. We're coming right back with Judy Isaacson Elias, the founder of Heroes to Heroes, as they work to prevent veteran suicide. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, but I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, familia, welcome back. We continue our conversation on how to help America's heroes, those that are out there putting their lives on the line, risking themselves, life and limb for the American dream, for you and me, for our children, for a future, the future of our country. And dealing with moral injury, dealing with feeling so worthless that they can't exist when they come back home, a feeling I can't relate with, and I'm glad I can't relate with, but it hurts me to think that others go through something like this. And Judy Isaacson Elias has put this program together called Heroes to Heroes, where they help them, and they meet them where they are, and they use a faith-based approach. And I think this is something that is important and something that we need to put attention to and shed a spotlight on. And they use this values-based approach, and she was just about to share those values. Judy, welcome back.
Thank you, Rich. It's number one, it's very important to understand one's values. And I think right now, we are in a values crisis in the United States. Our election is over values. Our election is over the Bible. And how are we going to live as a society? And when veterans come home, they're having that crisis. They're going through that crisis internally. How do I function? What does my day have to look like? Why am I here? And we have a 12-month curriculum. And what we do is we begin by helping them identify their values, what it is that makes you tick as a human being, what is meaningful to you. Is it family? Is it God? Is it friends? Is it love? Is it health? What is it? Identifying those values. And that's how our program begins. Who are you? And who we are is what our values are. What do we value on a day-to-day basis? Now, with the vets, they've lost a lot of that contact with self. They've worked on a team. So bringing them back to who you are, and we help them define those values. And it's very personal. And each person, we work in 5-person teams. They work with a coach, and that's for 12 months. These teams become family. But they start understanding who they are, what makes them tick. Then we help them look at their lives. Are you living a life of values? What does a life living your values look like? When, the things that we do that help us run away from who we are, like social media, television, spending hours in a gym, which is also a good value, but using it to waste your day is a little bit different. But we actually help them look at their day. What is their life like? Are they living that life of their own values?
Right, and trying to really just, I guess, find not only living your values, but finding the value in living their life. Judy, I'm going to jump back in just to take another pause. That's the beauty of radio. We have to pay bills, but we're going to come right back and wrap this up. And I want to make sure you let everybody know, A, how they can learn more about it, and B, how the tie-in is with you being in the Holy Land. So, folks, are coming right back with Judy. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, familia, we try to keep our word and bring you the best guests and the best opinions, and I think we do it. And one of those guests is Judy Isaacson Elias. She's the founder of Heroes to Heroes. HeroesToHeroes.org is their website. And Judy, what's the tie-in with the Holy Land? About a minute to you.
Okay, what we do is part of our curriculum. We spend 10 days in the Holy Land, in Israel. And I'm here right now just kind of making sure that when our team comes in a couple weeks, everything is safe and our spaces are safe. But while they're in the Holy Land for 10 days, they walk where Jesus walked. They get baptized in the Jordan River. They learn about their faith from where it all began. And our veterans are soldiers, men of the earth, women of the earth. So having that physical opportunity to reconnect with their faith in an unashamed manner can be the difference between life and death. And that's what we do here. And it's a crucial part of the program. Over 450 veterans have gone through it. And it's that 10 days is a pivotal point in their lives that they will say has saved their lives. And so I am here. We are here during a war. We're actually looking at a couple places, and I'm actually here on a personal reasons, but it's giving me an opportunity to make sure the places we're staying are in quiet areas of the country. This is not, a place that is a country that isn't totally at war in every spot. And many of the places we're going to, there are a couple challenges right now, and we're making sure that when our next team comes, we're in safe spaces and quiet spaces for them.
Judy, let everybody know how to find you on social media, your website, and everything else.
Yes. We have our Heroes to Heroes Foundation. Our website is heroestoheroes.org, HeroesToHeroes.org. Our Facebook page, Heroes to Heroes Foundation. Our Instagram, heroes.to.heroes. Thank you all so much for supporting our veterans.
You bet. Judy Isaacson Elias, thank you for being with us. You're a gentlewoman, a scholar, and a patriot. Godspeed to you. Folks, we're coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of the program. We're live, we're national. It's the Thursday night edition of the program, and the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. We've had lots of discussion tonight on a number of topics. We've got the Vice President of the United States in Wisconsin tonight, doing a rally, trying to drum up the votes there. That is a battleground for her and for El Trompito as well. He's in New York, which is not a battleground. And I would venture to say that most political consultants would probably say she's in the right place. She's in the battleground state, and he's in a state that they would say he doesn't have a chance at winning. But that's how it went down. And he was at the Al Smith dinner, and it was very funny. We played some clips, and it was really, really good. And he also visited a barbershop in the Bronx, and we have some audio of that, but it's kind of tough to hear. It's like cell phone audio. It's not as clear. But there was also a barbershop visit when he was in Michigan. Stopped by a barbershop in Detroit, and spoke with some of the people that Barack Obama was chastising, right? Black men. And they seemed very, very happy to meet with El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States. Then we had some conversation on what's happening in Ukraine with these churches, what's going on with Hamas and their leader being killed by a rocket. And they noticed the guy's teeth, is what I understand, and did a DNA test and confirmed it was Sinwar, Sinwar, and just a big development, right? They've now taken out four top leaders in Hezbollah and Hamas, the Israeli Defense Forces. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made a speech earlier tonight and made it clear that they killed him. That this war could end tomorrow if they decide to put down their arms and give up the hostages. Two things they have refused to do in the time that this war has been going on. So that's that. Now, El Trompito, he is at the barbershop in the Bronx and speaking with voters, and it's really an interesting exchange when they weigh in and say exactly why they're supporting him. Listen to this.
At the end of the day, I'm Trump because I my eyes open. I can see that he was doing a lot better than what we're going through right now. You can't even go to the grocery stores right now without making a life decision on what you want to get. You know, you got to compromise. We don't have to go through that 4 years ago.
You know, just being able to just live on a day-to-day basis, it has become a little harder at this point in time.
And there you go. They're telling you exactly why they care. Why they care to vote with Trump, why they care to support his policies. Life was better. This guy, you know, he was tongue-in-cheek, but he said it like it was. He said, you have to make a life decision when you go to the grocery store. I mean, and that's true for some people. They're using the last penny, the last dollar they have. They may not have a savings account. I think everybody here has heard that survey that came out a couple of years ago that said that, I don't know, something like 60 or 80% of Americans could not handle a $400 emergency. That's how tight they are on money. And some will say, oh, they should be saving. Oh, this and that. Okay, that's fine. Beat them up all you want. The reality is that they can't. If they had more money, they'd be better prepared. They'd save easier. So when you have these people that are saying, look, I don't care what you're telling me. I don't care about reparations. I don't care about transgenderism. I don't care about any of this stuff. What I do care about, being able to go to the grocery store and not have to make a life decision, right? To just maybe flippantly say, well, I'm going to buy the chicken and the steak. And I might even get a bag of chips to eat while I'm waiting online. But people aren't doing so much of that anymore because things are tight. What I saw for the first time, and again, maybe you've seen it, but I'd never seen it before. I drove past a 7-Eleven the other day, and it was boarded shut. Now, I think we read a story in the third hour here not too long ago about 7-Eleven closing some stores. Lots of people are closing stores, and everybody wants to say, well, you know, with COVID, listen, COVID, nothing. People go to 7-Eleven to buy a cup of coffee, to buy a lotto ticket, to buy some overpriced candy. And they don't mind because it's a convenience store. It's open all the time. It's open on New Year's night. It's open on New Year's Day. It's open Christmas Eve. It's open Christmas Day. At least the one by me is. So you pay a little extra for the stuff that you're buying that you could buy in the supermarket for 50 cents or $1 less, maybe even more. But people start holding on to that dollar a little more, and they stop going as much when the dollar goes from $1.39 to $1.89 for that small cup or whatever it is, $2 plus in some places. When that stuff gets out of control like that, people say, you know what, I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm going to have to make my own coffee because you know what? Coffee's expensive. Not that long ago, I drink the Spanish coffee that comes in the yellow sleeve there. And the little vacuum-sealed pack used to be, there were times it was on sale for $1, usually went for $3. I looked at the other day, it was like $7. The big container, I forget how much it is, but it's a lot. It's a lot of coffee. It was $16.99. And again, pretty affordable for coffee standards. I saw what Starbucks was selling for the other day. I was like, man, good thing I don't like Starbucks. It's too much money. Everything's a lot of money. It really is. I'm not crying poverty, but I'm saying, you know, people are trying to put kids through school. Like me, I have 2 kids in college right now. The last thing I want to do is have to make a life decision when I go to the grocery store, like this gentleman said. So that's what's going on there. But Pete Buttigieg has different views on El Trumpito. He says that Trump will, in effect, jail people and chastise his political enemies because his daughter or someone's child may be more politically left. And he questions whether they're going to be safe. You and your child, he and his child, me and my child. Are we going to be safe under a Trump administration when Trump decides to call our child an enemy of the people? Listen to this.
These are the exact folks who need to be reminded about the implications for a freedom-loving country if the next president of the United States is somebody who has more than flirted with, talked about turning the military on American citizens who he disagrees with politically. And I think there are a lot of folks at home, maybe conservative Republicans or independents who lean right, who are thinking to themselves, you know, if you've got a friend or a coworker or a daughter who is more politically to the left than you are, is she going to be safe in a country where the president of the United States calls her the enemy?
Well, pendejo Buttigieg, let me tell you this. Do you remember there was a period of 4 years when the 45th president of the United States happened to be Donald Trump? And nobody was jailed, not even Hillary Clinton, not anybody else. Nobody. Everybody thought they're going to lock up Obama. They're going to lock up this one. Come on. I knew that wasn't going to happen. Trump's not here to have that fight. Trump is a lover, not a fighter. Now, he's a counterpuncher. If you swing at him, he's going to hit you 10 times as hard. He's going to make sure he wins because he's a winner. But he's not looking for the fight. He's not afraid of the fight, but he's not looking for the fight. Why on earth would Trump put people in jail because they don't agree with him? What does he care? This is where they missed the mark. This is what they do. They're afraid of this because they're like, that's how I would treat you, so you're clearly going to treat me the way I treat you. That's the problem. Unbelievable. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that and everything else. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. It's open phones across America.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
What's up, America? Welcome back. Rich Valdez live with you till 1 a.m. this morning Eastern time. That's New York time. And I want to go to the phones. Let's go to 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Betty, Aberdeen, South Dakota, KSDN. What's up? You're on with Rich Valdez. Go for it.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for letting me come on.
My pleasure.
I just want to say thank you to your guest who talked about the term murder and the 10 Commandments. And we're studying the Beatitudes. And, you know, that was good to hear that was the difference. Murder and now I lost it, Rich. Anyway,
murder and killing, yes, of course. Thou shalt not murder versus thou shalt not kill.
Right. And I appreciate that she was on and the things that she shared. There's been something that I've been kind of curious about, and it's I guess you guys have Dollar Trees and stuff. We have a lot of them here. Yeah. I noticed in the last couple of years that the frozen food, not all of it, but some of it, comes from China. And I am just like dumbfounded as to how frozen food can come from China to be sold to here in America. But recently in a food giveaway that I received, there were frozen potatoes that came from China. I'm not understanding how Feeding America got potatoes from China for their distribution. And I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but it just seems like, how is that? I mean, I don't even know how long.
How is that a thing? Well, I'll give you a couple of scenarios on this, Betty. One, I think it's a very important thing. We do have to pay attention to what we eat, because that is a way that many that want to do us harm could, going back to hundreds of years, right? Kings used to have food tasters to make sure that they weren't getting poisoned. Now, that's not any different today, just we don't taste it. And we have the FDA, and we allow food from one of our biggest enemies. Lamentably, because China uses slave labor, it may, in effect, be cheaper, especially for a dollar store that's working off a very small margin, to have a potato grown by slave labor that may be a genetically modified potato, so it's even cheaper to grow, and have slave labor to pick those potatoes and ship them here, and still be cheaper than paying an American farmer to grow a potato. I don't know, but that's the case with a lot of things. This is why, one would think, why would I buy a shirt made in China if I could get one made right here? Well, because to make it right here, you've got to pay somebody an American living wage. And that may not be the case. Plus, you have to use, it would make sense to use materials that are sourced or grown American cotton. Sometimes the cotton's cheaper in Nicaragua, and they'll assemble things to be made in the USA right here in the United States, if you don't want to go made in China, because it becomes so expensive to grow it here and do everything here because the costs are so much higher here. So that might be why. Now, another thing is that might be why they buy it at Dollar Tree or other places, but that could be why if they're not selling it, or it's close to expiration date, or they have an overstock on something, they may choose to be charitable and give it to Feed USA or one of these other agencies and organizations, and even apps now that take overage of food and give them out to people that need them, or sell them at a discount, or whatever they want to do. So that might be the other reason that that's happening. But I thank you for the question, because I think it's important. We do have a USDA and an FDA, and I feel that neither of them are doing what needs to be done to protect the food supply in the United States. And that's an interesting point that I think we don't spend enough time discussing on this program, but one that we should probably dig into a little more. So, Betty, thank you for that, and your kind words on our guest this evening. Veterans are number one in my book, so God bless them. God bless you. Thank you for the call. Shout out to Betty in Aberdeen, South Dakota, KSDN. And we continue. We're going to go to Archie calling us from Ventura, California. KVTA. Archie, go for it. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey,
yes, sir.
I figured out why the Democrats call their convention the Convention of Joy. They're very, very happy when they can spew all that mendacity, all those lies, when they have no news media to vet them and correct any of their lies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is what they do. And they feel emboldened in the sense where they can have the Speaker of the House give one answer and they can change the answer and offer another answer, or they can have Kamala Harris on her 60 Minutes interview offer an answer that's so circuitous and goes nowhere that they can take another part of it and stick it in here and splice it up and say, as if they were creating a podcast for entertainment purposes only, not as if it were actual news. And you're right. They do this with impunity because they know that no one is going to come after them. And that even when you call them out, their fans that are loyal to them are going to say, listen, we don't care. Do what you got to do because Trump can't win. So whatever it is you got to do for Kamala, go for it. And that is the dangerous thinking, right, that we have today, where people are willing to forego what they know is right and good just to get their own way. That's not good. Archie, thank you for your call, my friend. I really appreciate it. And let me see. Well, I don't want to cut anybody short, and there's only, I guess we do have a little bit of time. Where do we go? Let us go to Frank, Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. Frank, I don't want to leave you on hold forever. Go for it.
Thanks, Rich.
Yes, sir.
I was a little disappointed today when Kamala's got to deride Trump over his day of love. Just let her be reminded in the Bible. It says of all the gifts of the Spirit, love is the greatest.
Yeah, it's in the book of 1 Corinthians.
Love trumps joy every time. That's all there is to it.
I love that. Great play on words.
You can love.
That's terrific. It reminds me of the Summer of Love, right, Frank? When they were having the Summer of Love during the George Floyd riots, burning down police stations and doing what they do. And meanwhile, over in Minnesota, good old Tim Walz was just letting everything happen. He didn't care about any of that. And now he wants to be the vice president of the United States. One heartbeat away from the Oval Office. Tiananmen Tim. Don Rickles himself. Man, Lord have mercy if that happens. Frank in Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. Thank you, sir. Always good to hear your voice. And we're going to go to Lansing, Michigan, Wilmington, Delaware, Boise, Idaho, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Auburn, New York, Oxnard, California, and so many others straight ahead. Keep it locked right here. We're coming right back to the rest of your calls. I'm Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue the program with open phones across America. And again, just a quick couple of updates. We've had the Israeli Defense Forces today reporting that they have captured and killed the leader named Sir. I don't even know his name. Count Delacula, play the second half of that cut from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Go right ahead.
Hamas is holding 101 hostages in Gaza, who are citizens of 23 countries, citizens of Israel, but citizens of many other countries. Israel is committed to doing everything in our power to bring all of them home. And Israel will guarantee the safety of all those who return our hostages. But to those who would harm our hostages, I have another message. Israel will hunt you down and bring you to justice. I also have a message of hope to the peoples of the region. The axis of terror that was built by Iran is collapsing before our eyes. Nasrallah is gone. His deputy Muhsin is gone. Haniyeh is gone. Def is gone. Sinwar is gone. The reign of terror that the Iranian regime has imposed on its own people and on the peoples of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, this too will come to an end. All those who seek a future of prosperity and peace in the Middle East should unite to build a better future. Together, we can push back the forces of darkness and create a future of light and hope for all of us.
That again, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, with his announcement of what's going on with capturing, in the words of the great Mark Levin, Yabadabadu, Sinwar, the leader of Hamas who engineered this whole October 7th attack. And I love that he's done that. I love that he told him, look, this thing can end tomorrow. Put your guns down and give us back the hostages. Otherwise, we're going to hunt you down and kill you. It was pretty plain language. It was very clear. Let's go to Jenny, Oxnard, California, KVTA. Go for it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on your show. I love your show.
Pleasure.
I love all the topics you talk about. I just wanted to let you know I'm a woman. I will be voting for Trump. We have many women around this area that have the same views, and we are cheering for him, praying for him. I'm tired of the nonsense. People nowadays don't make sense with this freedom that they give them. They want to be cats. They want to be dogs. I want to be in a little world where everything is normal, and I'm sure Trump is going to be able to do that. I just want to thank you for your show, and I just want to say that I'm just hoping he wins. I'm doing my vote by mail right now. I don't trust the system. Should I mail it? Should I just take it personally? I mean, I'm just not trusting that.
Yeah, well, I would deliver it in person. Just so, I could have I'd take a picture of it, maybe shoot a little video of it, whatever I could do to make sure. 'Cause I'm like that. I just don't have a lot of faith in mail, and I don't even check bags on airlines anymore. Tell you a quick story, Jenny. One time it was 2004, and I was helping out the campaign and the RNC for the re-election of President Bush. And I took a flight to New Hampshire, and that night I was going to some event that President Bush was going to be at, so I had to bring a suit with me, but I was going to be doing like some outdoor work, campaigning and stuff. So I had regular clothes on, but I brought my suit with me, and I put it in a bag, and they were like, oh, we can check the bag for free. And instead of fighting and saying, no, I'd rather carry it, take it with me, I said, sure. Well, I landed, and what happened? When I got to the carousel, I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited. But first of all, when I landed, Air Force One landed right next to us, and they kept us on the plane forever and a day because they were like, oh, the president's landed and blah, blah, blah. So after they finally cleared us to get off the plane, I go to the carousel, and everybody's getting their bags, and I'm like, hey, I didn't get my bag. And they're like, oh, hold on. Go in this little office here. I went to the office, and they were like, oh, sorry. We'll do everything we can to get it to you. And then they came back. They said, all right, we've located your bag. That's the good news. And I said, what's the bad news? They said, it is on its way to Hawaii and should be in Hawaii by the morning time, at which time we'll get it right back. And I was, excuse me? I was like, look, I got to go. My suit is in that bag, and I'm going to a thing with the President of the United States tonight. And they didn't care. They were like, oh, I'm so sorry. I had to go buy a cheap suit somewhere because I didn't have money to buy a whole, nice suit that I could get tailored and everything. I had to buy one like off the rack it was just a mess. And thankfully I was able to do that and pull it off and do what I had to do. But man, it was a crazy story. So because of that, I don't put a whole lot of things in the mail. I do if I have to, but if I can do something in person, I definitely will, Jenny.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to confirm, and it's just, I'm just hopeful, and we hope that he wins. And there's a lot of cheering around this area. We just keep it quiet because I don't want to get my tires smashed or a broken window or something like that.
I know how that is. I'm in the New York area, and it's crazy around here. Jenny, thank you for your kind words. God bless you and keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Shout out to KVTA, Oxnard, California. And let's continue. Where do I want to go? Let's go to, I just mentioned Hawaii. We're going to get to Hawaii in a second. Hawaii, stand by. We're going to go to Andy. Andy's in Auburn, New York, WAUB. Andy, go right ahead.
Hey, I'm a liberal. I'm your liberal friend, Andy, here in Auburn.
Yay.
I had this discussion with Jimbo back when Trump was first running. The quote, there were good people on both sides, right? Now, I'm a liberal, but liberals are just driving me insane these days because they all have Trump derangement syndrome. Now, I'll never vote for a Republican, but liberals are driving me crazy. All you have to do is look at the quote. He said, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis or the white supremacists. They should be condemned completely.
Isn't it funny how the media left that out?
Yeah, and they leave it out every time. And I know hardcore liberal friends who watch the, quote, news all the time, every day, and they have never heard that quote completely. They've heard the other part, but they never heard that part. There's another one that just came up when he said they have bad genes. Remember this one?
Yeah, he said murderers have bad genes.
Murderers have bad genes, and they changed it to immigrants have bad genes. He's in favor of, what's that word?
Ethnic cleansing.
Well, there's another word for it. Anyway, they do this all the time. And it's like, I think Trump probably is a racist. I think it's incidental, but...
Well, you probably think that because of so many other instances where they've said that. But the reality is, I'd say Trump is probably he's said it, and I probably agree with it, one of the least racist people because he's actually always been around lots of black people. He's been a big fan of the hip hop culture. When I was a kid, everybody had Trump in their rap video. Trump was all over the place. He was the guy that gave Rosa Parks or got the Rosa Parks Award from Rosa Parks. There's pictures of him and Muhammad Ali, him and Mike Tyson, him and Rosa Parks. And one would think if the guy was a racist, these people wouldn't do those things, right? And I can't think of another Republican politician that has so many black cred, right? So many acolytes from the black community. Jesse Jackson, back in the 80s, was talking about how Trump was one of the stand-up guys that helped him launch his campaign for president as a Democrat. So I don't think Trump is a racist at all. I think the reality here is you're right. That there are people that hate Trump that are distorting the truth, many of them liberal, but it's not even about being a liberal. It's about being a liar. And these people are lying about Trump, spreading lies, trying to get people to believe something that just is, in fact, not true. And I thank you for calling that out. Andy, the liberal in Auburn, New York, thanks for tuning in and for your call. WAUB. And we're going to get to our caller in Hawaii on KHKA as soon as we come back. Keep it locked right here. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
And then, by the way, he's going to crack down on immigration to the benefit of American workers.
He's going to deport 20 million people, the people who pick your crops, the people who process your meat, the people who, care for your grandmother, the people who serve all sorts of critical functions in this country. Yeah, he's going to deport a lot of people, and that's going to worsen the economy.
Okay. Well, that is, her name is, hold on, bear with me, Catherine Rampell. She's an economic commentator on CNN, saying that this is going to be bad for the economy, the fact that we're removing a bunch of cheap labor. Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to say it's probably going to help the people that are trying to get a job and can't get one because they're being undercut by somebody who's here illegally, right? And this is not the people picking our crops. That's a presumption that everyone that's picking crops is illegal when we know that there's literally visas for that. So I don't know that that's accurate. And then they go on to this whole thing about crime. And I don't know if you've been watching, but there's this gang from Venezuela that's really an organized crime army, Tren de Aragua. I mean, they're all over the place. And our feds aren't doing much. Anyway, let's get back to you guys. Let's go to Rick calling us from Honolulu, Hawaii on KHKA. Rick, go for it.
Hey, Rich. Hey, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I was wondering whose suit this was that I found at the airport. Fits like a glove, man.
Enjoy it, brother.
I was calling because I was listening earlier, and the lady was talking about the potatoes from China, and you was talking about the FDA and all that. And I just feel like a lot of these departments that are supposed to be protecting us, they don't. So my question to you, sir, is what is the purpose of Homeland Security?
Yeah,
I was under the impression that they are supposed to be protecting us and stopping things or explosives and things coming into our borders, because here in Hawaii, they cannot stop these aerials from coming in, these fireworks. And it looks like World War III on those 4th of July and the New Year's Eve nights. So
wow.
I'm always wondering, what is their job? I'm like, what do they do?
The purpose of the Department of Homeland Security was to take away our rights and enlarge the size of government. And this is when I started to say, I helped to reelect this guy, George W. Bush, but the creation of this department was something that I was on the fence about because, we were at war and this and that and 9/11. But the core of my being was like, we don't need more government. We already have this. We already have that. We've seen how the FBI changed after 9/11. They became almost like the CIA on the domestic side. So what did we need that for? To have aggressive airport screening, to have, to put Customs and Border Patrol beneath the Department of Homeland Security to do what? To gut them when they put this guy Mayorkas in there, and they've basically turned our border agents into travel agents. This is a very bad scenario. So I agree with you. What do we need it for? In all honesty, if tomorrow they said, you know what, there's $0 left, no more Department of Homeland Security. We're going to keep the FBI with the Department of Justice. We're going to keep Border Patrol and move that, maybe by itself. And so many of these other citizenship, ICE, this, that, and whatever. You put all of that stuff existed before, right? They had INS, immigration naturalization. They've expanded our government so much to the point where it's ineffective. It's gotten bigger and it's not gotten better. So I think there's a lot of that we wouldn't miss. Imagine if we could all get on a plane and didn't have to deal with all this aggressive airport security. Listen, that's me. I'm that guy. If they told me, listen, dirt roads from here on out, no more paved roads, I'm down. I'm okay with that. I don't like, getting paint chips on my car. But if my neighbors and me say, you know what, we don't like getting paint chips on our car, we don't want to drive on dirt roads, let's get this road paved, I'm chipping in with my neighbors and we're paving the road. I am that radical. I don't need the government. I don't want them. I really don't. They said, hey, no more police. I'd say, okay, sorry, thank you very much. Go and buy some more guns, put some cameras in, maybe buy a couple of big dogs, secure my home a little better. And it's pretty safe as it is right now. And that's it. That's me. So, yeah, I'm with you. What do we need them for? Now, I know you meant that in the realest sense. Like, no, really, what do they do? That's the problem. They do a whole lot of nothing. As you can see, they can't even keep you from having aggressive fireworks during the 4th of July, and they can't keep the border secure. Why? Because their leader sucks. Because our leaders suck, and we've got to change them. That's the bottom line, Rick.
So good. We could greet our family members coming right off the plane, and we could walk them right through the gate as they're leaving. Now, dump them at the curb. Pick them up at the curb.
Right. Right. It's almost like COVID. Let your grandmother die. You could watch her on COVID. I mean, just crazy the way we've turned our society, all in the name of safety. And look, I get it. I'm being a little exaggerated here. We need some safety, but we don't need the level that we have, in my opinion. When I've traveled internationally, I felt like I got through customs in England. It was pretty tight. But in where was it that we did the show from in Europe? Hungary, Budapest, Hungary. That was pretty good. Colombia, theirs was the best. Getting in and out of Colombia was a breeze, and they knew what they were doing. I forgot that I use a straight razor for my beard, and it's a disposable razor inside the straight razor. And I had forgotten I had done my beard and not thrown the blade out, and I didn't have to go through all the things I do in New York or where anywhere else really. Take this out, take that out. They just put the thing through the machine, and they said, "Hey, there's a blade in your thing. Take it out and you can go." I did it, and that was it. 1, 2, 3. No, nothing crazy, no serious delay. The line kept moving. The Colombians know exactly what they're doing. Maybe that's by design, too. To see, maybe they want a lot of things to get through. I don't know. But it worked for me. Rick in Honolulu, Hawaii. How's the weather in beautiful Honolulu?
It's beautiful, man. It's in the mid-80s, cloudless. It's beautiful.
I love it. Well, enjoy the rest of your afternoon and early evening. I know you guys are in the Pacific time zone there, so thank you for your call. Thanks for tuning in on KHKA, our Hawaii affiliate. And, folks, we get to the rest of your calls and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, and before we get to Michigan and Pennsylvania and Idaho, we stop in Tampa, Florida, and check in with our listener, Eduardo, streaming us on KTTB. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Rich, thank you very much. Yeah, under this administration, Harris and Biden, child sex trafficking has tripled. And she needs to take out a page out of Italy. They are sending, they're very strict on immigration. They're pushing the migrants over to Albania. I saw this on DW News. They did a nice piece on that. So she needs Meloni. She's the leader over there in Italy.
Yeah,
she should
the
be like
Italian
her.
prime minister. She's terrific. Very pro-family, very conservative, pro-God. I love it. She's got her head on straight. And you're right. To get these gangs out of here, to get the illegal immigration problem curtailed, that's exactly what Trump did. He called it the Remain in Mexico policy. He put pressure on Mexico and said, hey, look, you figure this out. Because he knew they were complicit with the cartels. Oh, man, the music's here. Ken in Lansing, I owe you one, brother. I'm sorry. WILS in the building. He says Kamala's trying to pull an about face with Israel. Man, that's what she does. She's two-faced. She stands for nothing. And Jim in Pittsburgh, Dems are going to steal the election in PA. They're going to try. Our job's to stop them. Paul in Boise, good on Israel for getting the bad guy. You got it. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night and God bless. I'm Rich Valdez.